Good morning, everybody. I'm Troy Hudkins. This is my podcast, Lessons for Life, and today's guest is Erin Ko. Erin, thank you for joining us and taking the time to be here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Troy.
That's awesome. You look like you're in your gym. You just had a bit of a workout this morning to get your blood pumping.
You betcha. Just finished a little bit of a workout. We've been revamping our gym, so we have a heavy bag now on a track, and so it was
Nice.
for my first workout on it since it's been hung in its new place, and it was amazing. Yeah, I feel
Awesome.
alive. It's great.
Awesome. Yeah, it's good to get the blood flowing and get invigorated first thing in the morning.
Yeah, and one of the nice things about the time that we're going through right now, where lots of people are at home and we're all, gifted a lot of downtime, is we can really take care of ourselves.
Right. Gives you
Yeah,
some time to work on your own health and wellness,
yeah,
for sure.
absolutely.
So to start with, my first question, who is Erin Ko?
Oh boy, the existential question. Well, spiritually, Erin Ko is just one tiny piece of the whole of the oneness. In this human life, in this day and time, as defined by, the other people around me, I'm a daughter, I'm a wife, I'm a mom. I, you know, I have a long history in business and fitness and health and in wellness. And I also have a tough past, a long history of depression and, suicidal anxiety. And before anxiety was diagnosed, as a condition or a disorder or a symptom. And so I came from a really anxious and dark place and had to get to better. I had to get more alive. And so the story of how I got to the journey of where I define myself as who I am now, is that, I was depressed, I was suicidal, I was a teenager, I was institutionalized. I came out in search for a feeling and I didn't know what that was. And then eventually I found it. I was looking for it in a career. I didn't recognize that it was a the feeling of purpose and meaning, a life feeling that I was seeking, until I found it, in an accidental job becoming a personal trainer. Which
Nice.
was very unplanned, spontaneous and very gracious. And then I got into, helping people resolve the same challenges that I had. And it was very liberating. It was very liberating to do for myself and then to share it. And it
Nice.
became the body of my life's work. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'll get into a little bit of that, your training and stuff in a little bit, but let's start with some questions about your family. Like who was your biggest influence in your life? Do you think your mother or your father?
Oh man, I want to say that my mom for a long time was the biggest influence. And then it switched for a while, very
Okay.
dramatically switched. And now I think it's kind of a good balance of both. And I'm very fortunate that at times they let me influence them. Not always, but
I
at
was
times they let me influence them, and that's, very trusting of them.
I had an interview with somebody the other night, and they were talking about their young kids, and their kids are 8 and 10. And she said, I'm supposed to be the teacher of these children, and these children teach me so much.
Mhm.
So yeah, hopefully your parents let you influence them and give them some things they maybe
Yeah.
don't understand or know at this time. Do you feel the difference between the influence from your mother and father? You said it started out with your mother. Do you think maybe that's because as a younger child that maybe they were the comforter?
Yeah, I definitely heavily believe in this idea that our nurturer, this place where we come from, that protects our lives, and primarily brings them into the world, is a biochemistry. there is a definite animal instinct to bond with that baby, and be the primary caregiver. And some of it is because, um, there's the physical contact of baby breastfeeding with mother, and there's all that, cuddling and stuff, but also, um that's where we come from. So I think we have a sense of that's home.
Right.
Whereas, dads come into the picture a little bit later, when there's, when they can come and do their thing. So, to a certain degree, I think that there was a higher level of interaction for sure. There's more of a, a hormonal instinct to be bonded to mom. And I had a pretty traditional nuclear family, right? My mom was a quintessential mom. My dad was a quintessential dad. So he went to work, and, you know, by the time I was 8, my mom was staying home with me full time from work, right? So when I was home from school, she was there. And it was, I was very lucky. I had a very good childhood. So yeah,
Nice.
very good
Nice.
parents. Yeah. And so later on, I more identified with my dad because I rebelled, and I rebelled a lot against my mom. Like, I rebelled against both my mom and my dad, but my mom and I have a very similar strong personality. My dad is the nice guy. So of
Well, every
course I
family
sided
has
with,
that.
yeah, of course I sided with him, in my teenage rebellion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and every family has that. We all rebel against one or the other parent at some
Yeah.
point, and sometimes I think that's where the switch comes between your one parent being an influence to the other parent being an influence.
Hmm.
Because maybe as you're growing, you're starting to maybe bond a little more with the other one, and you're starting to push the other one away a little bit.
Oh
You
yeah,
know what I mean? So,
I do. Hmm.
yeah. Um, so of all the good traits from your mother, what is one that you would like to be able to pass along to your younger generations?
um Respect of all people and all things. When I was growing
Nice.
up, my mom was very liberal in her thinking, that nobody deserves to be discriminated against, and that it doesn't really matter how much we don't understand, why somebody behaves the way they behave. They don't need our judgment. Now, the world has changed a little bit, and times have gotten a little scary, and she's gotten a little bit, um, further away from her 18th birthday. And so
A
and
little bit.
so yeah, and so she's become much more conservative over the years, which I think happens to most people, right? And so, that's kind of our natural progression in our thinking and our way of life and our desires and our longing for safety. So, yeah.
Okay. What about the traits from your father? Is there one that you would pick that you would pass on to your younger generations?
Oh, my dad is so nice. He's so kind. This is really what he's known for. When people talk about my dad, they talk about what a good man he is, what a
Nice.
nice guy he is.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is really awesome. Yeah, he's a very, very good-hearted human being. And so that is, I want to honor that in him and go sprinkle that around the world in my own children, but also, in whomever, whose
Right.
ever
And
heart needs the seeds.
anybody you come in contact with, really, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's one of the things, is to be an influence to those around you,
Hmm. Yeah,
whether it's your
absolutely.
close circle or an extended circle.
Hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um, did you have siblings? Are you an only child?
I am an only child. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, like, it's kind of a funny story. I have a half sister I've never met on my mom's side, but I grew up an only child, and I don't know my half sister yet.
Okay.
So yeah.
So then, obviously, growing up, you had friends and stuff.
Hmm.
What would you say would be one of your friends that had the largest impact in your life?
Oh my goodness, what a tricky question. I had very transient friendships when I was younger. I think so. I've had a friend, Cherie, for a really long time. I was actually friends with her younger sister when I was a teenager growing up. We went to the same school. And then her and I became friends. And she taught me a really valuable lesson about being able to just show up as who I was, and that she was never going to like wish for me to be different, even if she wanted a different outcome. And that it's probably my life's most profound friendship. But I have
Nice.
so many. I have a girlfriend who is like the other. She's like the other half of my soul, right? Her name is Tamara,
Nice.
and yeah, and her and I have gone through tons of time over the years where we weren't talking because I'm stubborn, um, we had a friend breakup, and then it's really because of her persistence over many, many years, over and over and over again, that we rekindled our friendship. She was actually the first person I contacted when I signed up for Facebook. I was a very late adopter of Facebook. So
Nice.
yeah,
Nice. That's awesome.
yeah, yeah.
So, who would be your idol? Who would you look up to and say, I want to be like them, or, I want
Oh,
to do what they do, or what they stand for?
my goodness. That's a great question. I would like to have the equanimity and the sense of humor and all encompassing open-hearted lovingness of the Dalai Lama.
Nice.
I would love to be as selfless and as thoughtful as Mother Teresa.
Nice.
I would love to give as much peace and ease and grace into the world as so many of the role models in my life have given, right?
Nice. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So yeah.
Awesome. How
Yes.
important is education in your life?
Well, learning and expanding in terms of education is incredibly important. I never did post-secondary. I got my high school diploma when I was 35 years old. But I've continued to be curious and to teach myself things that I find valuable, and to how to think, because you don't really learn how to think critically and for yourself and expansively and creatively in school, um, unless you find a way to do that for yourself, right? So
Nice.
yeah, I have massive, full, exploding bookshelves all over.
Great. Always
Yeah,
learning.
always learning, always growing. If we're
Eh,
not growing, we're dying, right?
Right.
Tony
And never,
Robbins says that. Yeah,
yeah, never stop,
yeah.
because that's
Never
when
stop.
things get stagnant.
And you don't feel
Yeah.
good about yourself. If you are not feeding your mind and your body with something that grows you, you're feeding yourself with things that deplete you. And you feel that. And the more we do that, the more we want to do that. Right.
Right.
So the
Right.
more we do its opposite, the more we want to do
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Awesome. So which form of education do you think carries more importance? Would it be classroom or life lessons?
That's also a dichotomous question. I think that there's value in both. I don't I don't subscribe to the traditional Western public school method of learning. So there's a curriculum for everyone. They regurgitate things. They don't necessarily get why they're learning and they don't retain it. It's a memorize, regurgitate, move on to the next thing. So
Right.
um, in terms of that classroom, I don't find that a very valuable learning experience, except for the value of learning how to sit through when you don't really want to. Like, there's a value in the
Right.
self-discipline of that. And over the years, you learn several skills that keep order in the world, right? But if you're talking about a classroom where you go to a live event, and you're surrounded by hundreds or thousands of other people, or even dozens of other people who are hungry for the same things that you are, who want to grow and who are there to be vulnerable. That, you know, the atmosphere, the friendships, the courage that's created there, that kind of classroom is incredibly valuable.
Right. And
Yeah.
I always think like classroom setting or learning in a group like that, you learn basics, you learn things,
Mhm.
but to actually grow on that, you have to go out and do life skills. You have
You
to go
sure
into the
do.
real world and put those things to work. Like everybody needs to know math, how to add, how to subtract, how to multiply,
Mhm.
but you learn it in school. But when you get out in the real world, you learn a lot more than just while you learned math,
Yes.
right? So there's
Yeah.
lots of things to it, I think.
Yes.
Um, so
But yeah,
with
like, I mean, living is a lab, right?
exactly, it's and constant learning, right? I mean,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
forever.
Yes.
Um, so with learning, how do you know when you know?
When you can teach it to someone else and it's effortless.
Nice,
And
good
you
answer.
know before that, but you don't own it like it's yours. Right?
Right,
There are stages of knowing, but when you know, when you really like, when it lives inside of you, you can teach it and it's effortless. You breathe it,
like
you
that.
speak it. Yeah. You see it in everything.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's an awesome answer. That's excellent. Have you ever played sports in your life? Do you ever do that kind of thing?
So I really haven't. You know, gym, my phys ed growing up, we did a little bit. We dabbled in basketball, volleyball, you know, badminton, but I was never an athlete. I danced a bit when I was a kid. I
Okay.
took swimming lessons that I failed at. I just actually relearned to swim last year. I was 38, I think, or 37 when I learned. And gymnastics for a very, very short time. But other than that, you know, I've lifted and I teach yoga. But as for sports growing up, I was a bookworm. I was a geek, so no
Okay.
sports for me.
So you've weight trained, you do all kinds of training. Do you run and stuff? Like what is what
I am
is
not a
your
runner.
no, what is your
No.
motivation in the gym?
Oh, my motivation is to figure out what my body is capable of. So as a yogi, you learn how to be really present with what you're experiencing. And the body is a very miraculous and marvelous thing, and you know, has a potential. I will never fully achieve my body's potential in this lifetime, but I want to push it to see what it is capable of, because I get better and better as time goes on. And there's, you know, the freedom of that trumps anything else I've ever experienced. You know, we all long for that feeling of freedom in our soul, and that feeling comes from something we generate, you know, when we feel powerful, when we feel capable,
Right.
and being strong and healthy, and able to do things that are, you know, pretty outrageous. So, you know, my best friend could jump the height of a picnic table and the length of a yoga mat. Um, and he was a grandpa, right? So being able to do being able to do things like that, it feels amazing. It feels like you're truly alive in your body.
Right.
Yeah.
So
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 more of
do
that.
you push to always be better than you were last time?
Hmm.
Like every
I
time you
do.
go to the gym?
Hmm. And I will tell you this: as our body ages, it changes, right? So what we were better at before is not necessarily a place where we can keep excelling anymore. We may need to switch gears and go in a different direction. And you know, in the last 5 years, I've definitely experienced that my body wants a shift in the type of training. I was doing a lot of really heavy lifting and stuff, and um, now my body is really longing for more cardiovascular, more sweating, more heavy breathing, more fast-paced moving. So I'm hitting the heavy bag. We have a cardio machine here. I TRX often, and I travel with my TRX. So, and even lots of walking, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice. Okay.
yeah.
So what is your biggest fear?
Well, my biggest fear for the longest time was that I was not gonna be able to support myself, and I was gonna end up homeless and living in a cardboard box, which is really an outrageous fear when I took a look at it. Um, I have such great friends and family, and that would never happen. And I've been really capable, even when I was incompetent, about going out and making a living. So the fact that I panicked about it for so long was ridiculous, right? I actually learned about it at a Unleash the Power Within seminar with Tony Robbins. This is the thing that, as I speak about my devolving fears, what is the root cause? And that was the root thought of my fear. But I also came to learn through Tony Robbins' work and actually his coach training program, which I took the education of a few years back, that everyone's deepest fear is that we're not enough, that we won't be loved. And we all have
Right.
a pesky, nagging voice inside of us that says, you're too old, you're too young, you're too tall, you're too short, you're too fat, you're too, poor, you're too middle class, you're whatever it is, you're not adequate enough in this way that you wish you were, you think you could be if you were at the height of your self-discipline. And it's taken me years and years of knowing that I needed to accept myself, and a lot of life experience to finally be able to do that, to love who I am while I'm becoming who I want to be, right?
Right. And that's a journey all in itself, right?
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, excuse me. What what is your so with you having a fear like that, what is your why?
What is my why as to why I get up in the morning and why I do what I do?
Sure.
Um, when you go from a place where you don't feel like you're worthy of living and you think that the world would be better off without you, and then you finally discover you were put on the planet to help others and that you needed to hurt to learn, the compassion, the empathy, the desire to spark the desire to be helpful and to fulfill that, purpose of service to others, making their lives easier, and better and
Okay.
kinder and more powerful. That's my why. I think that I got through that time with the blessing of the universe saying, hey, this is not to break you down, this is to build you up. And I believe that we all, that everybody experiences hardship for that reason.
Right. Right. And
Yeah.
you've getting into the training and coaching and stuff, you've helped a lot of people.
Yeah,
What
and it's helped me incredibly. I mean, I never thought that I would come out of that dark time. And so, as it helped me, I wanted to spread it around and help other people from, feeling like they were stuck and it was never going to get any better.
right. So is that what was your biggest inspiration to choose the career that you're in?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It changed my life so much that I wanted to spread it around. Everyone deserves the liberation of knowing that it paradoxically, self-discipline makes us feel free. It is, there's endorphins in working out and in meditating and in stretching and in slowing down and in noticing. And there's an aliveness that comes, and the extra work is worth it. And it doesn't seem like it is, but the feeling it produces is the feeling we're all longing for.
Right. Right.
Right.
Is there anything else that you would like to do?
Is there anything else that I would like to do in the world, in life?
Sure.
See the rest of the planet. I've been
Nice.
dabbling and traveling the last couple of years, and it's been really good. And so more of that. I love this planet. But I've got tons of business ideas, and all kinds of
Nice.
ambitions. The fire never dies. It just gets stoked higher and higher, right?
Yeah. More and
Yeah.
more plans and ideas.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that means we got to live longer so that we can accomplish all these things, right?
That's the plan. Hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
so then with all these little desires in this fire, if you could do or be anything at all without any possibility of failure, what would it be?
Helpful, kind,
Yeah.
compassionate, empathetic. I would be, in yoga we talk about as instructors that we're helping to unfold the path for other people, you know, to lay out in front of them where we have already been. And that is all,
Okay.
to be able to walk beside others and give them, you know, the freedom, the key, the joy, the inspiration.
Speak
Yeah.
from experience,
Mhm.
right? Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you do a lot of this stuff already. So what
I do.
what do you do in your spare time to take your mind off things?
Well, I work out here in my gym, and we have a big dog. We have a big Bernese Mountain Dog. He's 120 pounds. He gets walked. I love to cook. Uh, I love drinking great coffee, and yeah, yoga in the park, travel around the world,
Nice.
relearn how to swim, things like that. Lots of
Right.
audiobooks. I listen to audiobooks relentlessly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I scuba dive because I can't swim. At least I got air in my mouth so I can do whatever.
Yeah. Well, I'm learning with a snorkel mask, which is like these full face masks
Yeah.
with the little
The
ball that makes it so
hose.
you don't drown on the water if you tip the snorkel in. They're brilliant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my biggest problem is with a snorkel I do drown.
Yeah. I know,
So
me too.
yeah, it's brutal.
And I couldn't swim my whole life, but I got taught by somebody who's a world class swimming teacher last
Nice.
year, and yeah, swam in
And
the
now
ocean
you
in
swim.
Singapore. Yeah.
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 I still don't know how to swim. I can dog paddle and I can keep my head above water and that's about it.
It's new for me, so it requires a bunch more practice, but I'm enthusiastic where before I was very trepidatious, very fearful. So
Yeah.
and I kind of thought that was going to be a life thing, but I was at an ambition to learn. So
Nice.
I'm getting there.
Nice.
Hmm. Yeah.
What is the biggest lesson in life so far that you think you've learned?
Know yourself. If you know yourself, then you can know others.
Awesome.
If you know why you do what you do, you can know why others do what they do, and you can really understand, and that solves so much hurt. It gives birth to intimacy and creativity and understanding and connection. So yeah.
Nice. Awesome. What is one thing that you've accomplished so far in your life that you are most proud of?
What is one thing that I've accomplished so far in my life that I am most proud of? The most memorable thing, I guess. This is a tough one. um, coming through being suicidal, finally coming out on the other side and doing a grandiose amount of work to transform who I was, how I thought in the path that my life was taking. You know, that's it. But the most memorable thing is getting my high school diploma at 35. I had this crazy BS story about what I couldn't do because I didn't have it. And I had already owned a business for 10 years
Oh
at
yeah.
that point in time, like a solopreneurship. So it was crazy. And it didn't change anything except for what was in my head, in my story about myself and my worth. So yeah, that too.
Nice. It's amazing that you can make that transformation and come
Yeah,
out on the other side a new
such a
person.
blessing.
Yeah.
Such a blessing.
That's awesome.
Would not have ever believed it could happen, and then I went through it, and so I guess I'm spreading the
It
message.
It takes you to a whole new level, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. Hmm.
Yeah. If you could go back in your life and change one thing, what would it be?
If I could go back in my life and change one thing, I would go back to my young self and I would unlearn every fear.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd keep the healthy respect for things that were dangerous, but I'd unlearn every fear so that, um,
willing to
I could,
try.
yeah, when you look at a child and how unbridled they are in their pursuit
Yeah,
of what they want,
yeah.
it's fantastic. Hmm.
And their imagination and their
Yeah.
exploratory exploringness and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Yeah. And they're so curious and they're so persistent and they don't, they don't really, they're not self-conscious about who's watching
right,
and they're
right.
willing to celebrate every tiny win. It's gorgeous. So,
Yeah. If we could
yeah.
all do that,
Yeah.
learn from the kids. But I think as time goes on, we kind of get squished that we got to fit into this little mold,
We do. And I
right?
mean, we're in a, yeah, we're in a time right now, 2020. There's a lot of fear perpetuated by our media.
Yep.
And so we as grown-ups, we're living pretty fearful lives.
Yeah. I saw a little cartoon the other day. It said, had one picture, guy watching TV, watching the news, and underneath the caption said, "What can we do to have less fear in our life?" And the next picture, it showed him clicking off the TV,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we
So,
haven't had a television service in a long time. And so we have Netflix and that's it.
yeah,
Um, so we don't really expose ourselves to that.
yeah,
Uh, Aaron does a little bit. My husband, he seeks a little bit more for it and is a little bit more politically interested. But I understand that the media is quite sensational,
yeah.
and
I
I don't wanna get on their bandwagon.
I think there's a kind of a fine line between knowing a little bit about what's going on in the world, but getting bombarded with everything that
Mhm.
uh, directs the way your life is going.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's knowing stuff has its own benefits,
Mhm.
but you don't have to be bombarded with it and have it direct your life.
Well, and writers write the story of what people are going to say, and we watch TV because it's entertaining. So writers are gonna write, right?
What's going to be
And they
entertaining? Yep,
yeah, and they are writing a
yep,
story. It's crafted into a tale that is meant to keep your interest. And so it's not the good, warm, and fuzzy things that tend to keep our interest for very long. It is what terrorizes us
yep,
that keeps our attention.
yep, exactly.
So I refuse to participate.
Nancy and I, we watch very little news or media at all,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
like you said, we watch a little bit of TV, just some shows that are interesting, and that's it. That's kind of where it ends.
Or
So,
choose to. Jim Rohn says, you must stand guard at the gate of your mind. Um, you got to know what's coming in because it's going to influence what's coming out.
well, thoughts become things, right?
Hmm. Yes.
Yep. Um, what one thing in your past do you think has given you your greatest life lesson?
My entire teenagehood, which was very
Okay.
tumultuous.
Okay.
It was a really tough time. I moved out against my parents' wishes when I was quite young. And of course they were reluctantly supportive of me. I wouldn't have made it without them, but I
Right.
went out on my own. I had already been very troubled for a long time, had been in and out of the hospital, had been on medication. Um, went from junior high school to high school, and just it was an equally rough transition as it was from elementary to junior high school, but for different reasons. And so I just ended up leaving. I dropped out. Always thought that I wasted my smart brain, and there's some irony there, but I kind of bargained with myself about when I was going to go back, and that I was going to go back, and if I didn't have a skill, then I was going to go get one, and I did, and it's not what I ended up doing, but in the time that I was going through that, I moved up to Edmonton, and I lived with 5 people in a 2-bedroom apartment, and we didn't have enough keys for the door, so we came in and out of the windows, and it's cold up there, right? I worked in a pet store and at an auto detailing place in the summer. And, we all had a card to the food bank because we were poor. And so the lessons of those times and how to get by when things are really gritty, and just keep pushing, that's been really helpful. To come out of the depression and say, I can't push. I can't be anything. I can't do anything. I don't deserve to live. I don't have it in me to show up, to get to this place where it's like, hey, now I need to survive. That was probably the greatest life lesson,
Okay.
to understand, like, things can get pretty dark and pretty scary, and you can make it through on the other side, and it gets better.
Yeah. Okay. So then, with that being said, and you've talked about your younger self a couple times, if you could write a letter to your younger self, what age would it be, and what advice would you give?
I would probably write to my 10-year-old self, because my 14-year-old self would need to know not to try and fit in, because I was just that was my life desire. I wanted a place to fit in, and I never felt like I was in a place with people I belonged with outside of my family, like my mom and my dad, my family of origin. Even in my extended family of origin growing up, I didn't feel like I fit in.
Okay.
My first, the first time I ever felt that way, I was 35. So I would write a letter to my 10-year-old self and say, don't try and fit in. You're not built for that. You will have lots of great, deep relationships. Don't be afraid that you're going to lack any kind of deep connection or lovingness or understanding or closeness with other people. Just understand you don't get to keep them necessarily, right? And the relationships that you want are not what you think they are.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just be the best you that you can be, and don't be afraid to be you.
Yeah, and understand that
Right.
sometimes it's lonely, and that's okay.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's funny that sometimes we look for the loneliness, right? That alone time, and be
Yeah.
able to reflect on our own things, and
Oh man. Now, yes,
right.
now that I'm a little bit further away from my 18th birthday, I love to spend time with myself, you know.
Right.
Love it. Hmm.
Yeah.
Took years
S-
for me to get there though.
yeah, for sure. And that's
Hmm.
where, so, the meditation and the yoga and stuff, you you
Hmm.
do a lot of that, and you do a lot of self-healing and self-awareness work.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
and have been doing that for 20 years, 20
Ever
plus years.
ever since you found yourself.
Hmm. Well, I've been working on myself. I was working on myself and was lost for a long time,
Okay.
right? I started working on myself when I was 15, and I was very lost up until I was 27.
Okay.
That's when a big shift happened for me, right? Um, and all that time I was doing my work, that in that time I was slogging through the work like I'd cement boots on, like I was very resistant to it. And I didn't find teachers, counselors, helpers that really resonated with me until I was substantially older.
But you
Um,
you kept looking, like
Oh
you
yeah. I
you
knew
you
that
knew
life
that you
was
had to get through it?
crappy. I knew it had to be better than that. If I knew if I was gonna live, if I was gonna um actually stay alive, it needed to get better. Like I could not live where I was at. I was miserable, and I didn't know a lot of that misery was self-created. You don't know when you're always fearful of the worst of what's going to happen, and your brain is programmed as an animal, mechanism to spool it over and over and over again in the back of your mind that you are in danger. You don't know that you're ruining your own quality of life with your own rumination of fear, right? I
Right.
lived like that from the time I was young, really young. I was a fearful kid, and bullied, really bullied. So I lived that way probably from the time I was 6 or 7 until, you know, I was 35. I was 35 when I really started dumping a lot of my fears. I'd done a lot of work before then, but it was really slow at first.
Was there a point, or I guess I shouldn't say it that way. What was the point or the one thing that made you realize that transition?
There was no
Like
one thing.
like there wasn't an aha moment that kind of.
There were explosions of aha moments. It was like a garden of fireworks of aha moments in my brain over the course of several years, many of which involved incredible thinkers and authors, writers, speakers,
Okay.
Robin Sharma, Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle, Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, people of incredible influence, Brendan Burchard, Kerwin Ray, and there are so many people now whose work I'm deeply interested in. Brene Brown, Dr. John Gottman. This is because I've really gotten into studying people and their intimate and interpersonal relationships. Esther Perel, right? Incredible role models.
Nice. It's amazing because Nancy and I read a lot of that stuff and watch a lot of the videos. And
Yeah.
it's amazing, motivational, inspirational stuff. Things
Yeah,
that you can really read and relate to, and you can actually see how that would make a difference.
yes. These thought leaders have written basically the handbook to living, the
Yeah.
guidebook that we didn't come with, the instruction manual.
Right? Yeah.
And yeah, it feels really nice to be seen and understood and have somebody describe on the next level, what it is you'd like to be feeling and how to get it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Um, what is your idea of perfect happiness?
I don't believe in perfect happiness because I believe that happiness is fleeting. In my experience, moments of happiness, as I would define it, come and go really quickly. Um, I think that what people are really seeking for is fulfillment.
Okay.
Fulfillment is a deeper feeling, more of a low, long, rumbling feeling, whereas happiness is like a high pitched squeak, right? Or squeal.
Right.
And it ends very quickly. Um, Seconds. Happiness is seconds, whereas fulfillment can last for minutes and hours and days and weeks and years. And it's something you can condition by living a life that you're truly proud of, and by being who you want to be, by deciding who you want to be and understanding what that might look like or feel like, and then go in pursuit of it.
Nice. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
How important is family in your life?
100% family first, family
Yeah.
over everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even when it's
Yeah, that
rocky
is,
times.
even when it's rocky times, that is the anchor, the value that I come from. I'm very blessed to come from an incredible family. People who loved me when I was hardest to love. It has been the most pivotal anchor in my life, you know?
Nice. And now
Yeah,
you've built your own great family that you're involved in now,
I know. Yeah,
right?
I'm very blessed.
It's
I
amazing.
have I have so much to be blessed with in the way of family.
It's excellent.
Hmm.
How important is it to have good, positive relationships in your life?
If you are suffering in any of your relationships, you are suffering in all of the other areas of your life. It just takes up too much of our attention, takes up too much of our brain matter, our nervous system hyper responding. Again, running a loop of fear when your relationships are in chaos or disorder. So it's so important to have harmony, um, to have growth together, to have a deep level of connection, to be able to understand each other. And there we can really show up. We can really be ourselves. We can live a fully lived life, that is full of purpose and meaning, which contribute to our sense of fulfillment.
Okay.
Hmm.
What about being positive? So, how important is it to have a positive attitude with in all your dealings with family, friends, work, or even positive attitude in your alone time?
Well, again, Tony Robbins says, what you focus on, you feel. So, and he also says what's wrong is always available, so is what's right. And no matter how thin you slice it, those two sides are always there. So um proportionate to what quality of life you want to have. If you think that life should be a war, a battle, and you're looking for things to wage war against and to stand against, um, that is the life you're going to have. And if that makes you happy, that's perfect, right? Or fulfilled, or
Right,
whatever it is you're striving for, whatever your outcome, your end game is. What's most fulfilling to me, and I didn't know this, is not my natural disposition, but what's most fulfilling is to see what I can be grateful for, to see what's in the half full cup, and recognize it for its miraculousness and its beauty, to understand the science of it, to think about it from its tiniest part to its largest effect, and really marvel. And it improves, I believe, the quality of life. We really feel alive. So to think of that as a positive mindset, I think, is whitewashing it a little bit, but that's really what it is. It's seeing, like, there is, for everything that's absolutely wrong, you can find 2 to 10 times the amount of things that are absolutely right about anything or anyone. And you get to decide which life you want to live, right?
right.
What you want to
It's
feel.
that's kind of like I've read a few times and I've heard it from other people. The the Indian chief that talks to his young brave about the two wolves in your head. You have the
Hmm.
wolf of good and the wolf of fear, and he said it's up to you which one you want to feed.
Hmm.
Right? So, yeah, th-
Absolutely.
and that's
But there's no mistaking, there are some people that want to, it's like, is maybe not the right term, but who are addicted to punishing themselves.
well, I think they thrive on that energy,
Hmm.
right? There's definitely I mean, it's like skydiving,
There's
right?
a
There's
high to
that
anger.
high that goes with it,
Hmm. For
or
sure.
that rush,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there's
And there's a
people that
low
thrive
to
on that.
sadness, which can also be very addictive, like downer drugs. So there is, I mean, there's a really neat teaching from the Robbins Madonna's course about the crazy eight. The crazy eight is a pattern of thinking that we get in, where our nervous system goes from angry to sad, from sad to angry, from angry to sad, from sad to angry. And we stay on this loop because we can't stay in one state for any long period of time. But we get addicted to the drug of this inside of our body. And
Right,
so either we come out by doing something, that grows us out of the situation where we become better, or we do something that is escapism, that takes us down deeper into a hole where we kind of bury and smush down these feelings and then end up coming back to them over and over and over again, and they fester.
Right.
Yeah.
If there was somebody that you could have lunch with and a chat, anybody, dead or alive, who would it be?
To have lunch with and a chat, well, it would probably be the Dalai Lama. He's a pretty cool guy.
Yeah.
You know, his laugh is infectious. He's really cool in that way. It's a tough call though, because I'd love to sit down with my grandparents who are no
Okay.
longer in this world, you know, and talk to the grandpa I never met, and then my nana that's been gone for a long time, and my
Right.
grandma and grandpa. It would be really cool to sit down and have lunch with all of them together.
Awesome. That would be neat.
Yeah, it would
There's
be.
always things like that, like my family too. There's ones that I miss or never met that it would be neat
Yeah.
to chat with. But there is definitely figures in history that would be interesting to pick their brain and see what, what they think of life and stuff.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Well, at this point in time, it would be in Bali.
Cool.
For a
That would,
long time, it was California, and then I went to Bali,
yeah,
and I did not want to come home.
nice.
Had I not just gotten married and gained a new
You
family, I would
you
not have come
probably would
home.
have.
I probably would have stayed.
Yeah. Excuse me. What kind of music makes you happy or gives you a thrill? What's your go-to
Ooh.
for feel-good music?
It depends on the situation. You know, when I'm counting in inventory at a live event, it's Nora Jones. When I am having dinner or I'm cooking or I'm celebrating or just getting out of the shower, often it's Michael Bublé. I love Casey Musgraves. I love Maren
Nice.
Morris. Things that I can sing to, things that move my body and my spirit.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Things that
But
get
I
you
do love a good heavy concert.
uplifting.
Like I've been to Ozfest, and I've seen Metallica, and I love the energy of a Five Finger Death Punch is actually one of my favorite
Grunge
heavy
grunge
bands.
bands.
To go and see them. Well, they're actually a more of a metal, a rock metal band, but
Yeah.
yeah, they put on
Awesome.
an amazing show, you know. So
Well, and there's a different rush that goes with
mhm,
that too, right?
huge.
You
Yeah,
know.
and I yeah, I'm a music lover. I've been to
Yeah.
dozens and dozens and dozens of concerts. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, me as
Mhm.
well. All through my growing up years, I've been to many concerts, and I listen to everything from. I always tell everybody from Alvin and the Chipmunks to ZZ Top, like, and
Okay, so
everything
who's
in
one
between.
one person you would see, dead or alive, that you haven't seen yet in the musical world?
Sit down, have lunch with, and a chat.
No, go to their concert.
Oh, to go to their concert
Yeah,
that I haven't seen yet.
that you haven't seen.
Um, that is a hard one. I've seen so many. I would love to see Guns N' Roses back in the day.
Oh, nice. I saw Guns N' Roses, but it wasn't back
Yeah.
in the day.
No, I would have liked when they were big in the 80s. That's when I
Yeah.
would have liked to seen them. Like
Yeah, I saw them
right
like
in the
10
middle of
to
their
15
heyday,
years ago.
right?
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
that I think that would be one that I would love to see.
Yeah.
Now, if you went
Nice.
country, it would have to be probably Alabama.
Oh, really?
That would be
Nice.
good. Yeah.
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 Alabama. Sweet. For me, it would be Bonnie Raitt for sure. She
Oh
is the
yeah.
one musical idol I've never seen in concert.
Nice. Yeah.
Mhm.
I've seen some really good ones. I've seen like Alan Jackson and Kenny Rogers.
Mhm.
Um what the heck's his name? Kenny Loggins.
Mhm.
I've
Yeah.
seen. I've seen the Carpenters. I've seen Captain and Tennille. I've seen Rush. I've seen Styx and Prism and April Wine multiple times, probably like
Yeah, I've seen
10.
all them too. Yeah.
You know, I saw
Yeah.
Heart and Blue Oyster Cult, Ted Nugent. Like I've had a pretty good run with concerts and stuff, and it's been amazing. I saw Brian Adams before he came real big. We saw him at the Jubilee Auditorium in Edmonton,
Nice. I
and
got to cook
like,
him French fries once at a restaurant
oh,
I
did
worked at
you?
when he was playing in
Awesome.
Lethbridge. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's my
but
claim to fame.
right. It's
Yeah.
amazing though. It's like there's such a rush to it. You
Yeah.
know,
Hmm.
it's awesome.
Music brings us together, man. There's nothing like, so I didn't know this because I went to heavy concerts for a long time, like really like Godsmack and I mean this is back in the day I saw AC/DC and I was really hanging out with people who loved heavy music. So they were introducing me to concert going and it was really pretty like um mosh pit and people dressing up in metal and studs and leather and cargo pants and all kinds of stuff like that, right? Headbanging and I loved it. And then I went to my very first country concert and everybody was like, hey, where you from? Let me buy
Kick.
you a drink. Everybody sang along. I was like,
Yeah, everybody's
what?
kicked
It was
back,
crazy. So
relaxing with their feet up.
yeah, I had been to Ozfest and I had been to, on the band's Warp Tour
Yeah.
and so then all of a sudden here I am at I think it was a Brad Paisley concert. It might have been my
Oh,
first
nice. I
country
would
concert
go
and
see him.
everybody sings along. Oh gosh, it was so good. He actually did like a holographic projection of Alison Krauss when because of course she wasn't there in person, but they have a duet song that they do together and it's one of my favorites. And it was really the coolest thing. Like you could tell she was gigantic, but she looked like she was really there. It was amazing. And it was such a
That's
cool
awesome.
concert, when the energy of the whole room singing along to every song. You don't get that at any other concert, at any rock or pop culture concert. Even like I've seen the Beach Boys and Elton
Nice.
John, but people, the artists whose songs people really know by heart, but you don't get that same feel as you do at a country concert because
Yeah.
everyone knows the words to every song.
Yeah.
And so that became my favorite concert going experience.
Excellent. Yeah. That's
Hmm.
awesome.
Yeah.
I went and saw April Wine in Edmonton years ago. I was I don't know, I was probably 16, 17.
Hmm.
And so I'd seen them come on, they played. I wasn't sitting right close to the stage, but I was close enough. Great experience. And probably it was probably my third concert, and it was not. I had never been to one that big.
Hmm.
And they came on, they played, they left, they came on for an encore. That night, they did 5 encores.
Wow.
Yeah, and so the next day in the newspaper, this is back when when you only had newspapers, they were talking about Miles Good when they interviewed him, and he said they have never ever played more than 3 encores. They always prepare for
Wow.
3, and playing 3 is very rare. He says usually it's 2, and they just gauge it by the group, by the crowd,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So when they came on for their third encore, they did it and they left, and of course they turn on the lights, right?
Yeah,
And everybody's supposed to leave. Well, nobody left, and the
of
place
course.
was just going crazy,
Yeah.
screaming and hollering. And the band came back out, and by then, people are starting to take down the tarps and the screens and everything. And the band came out, and Miles Goodwin says, like, we don't usually do this, so you're going to get songs that we've already played. And they played 3 more
Oh, geez.
songs,
Wow.
and then they said goodnight and they left. Nobody left. The whole crowd was screaming, and the roadies
Oh my
started taking
gosh.
down the equipment, and the band came back on. again. And
That's
and they were basically pushing the
awesome.
roadies out of the way. Of course, the roadies have a job to do. They got to get things prepared, right?
They want to get
So
home. They
they're
want to have a drink. They want to party. They want to
exactly.
put their feet
So
up.
they're
I
trying to
know.
push
I
these
know.
guys away so they could play more songs. Again, same songs we heard before, but
Yeah.
so they
We're
could
on the
keep
road at
playing,
an ungodly time in the morning. Yeah, I know.
right? And at the end of it,
Yeah.
the last song they played, I think Jerry Mercer only had his bass drum and one snare left because they were taking parts on him. But he was still playing, and it was just
It's like a
incredible.
garage party. That's perfect.
It
Yeah.
is. And then when we left the stadium, this was at the old Edmonton Coliseum,
Mhm.
we had been walking towards the LRT. And we're walking along. Of course, your ears are ringing and everything, and you've got that kind of noise in your head, but it's not noise, it's just quiet.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, somebody would start cheering. And we're outside now, like we're
Yeah.
out, and it just would go crazy for about 2 or 3 minutes, and then it would die down. And then we'd be walking some more, and then it would happen again. And like all the way along into the tunnel to the LRT, on the train, everything. It was
Mhm.
probably the most incredible concert I've ever been to.
That's
Just
awesome.
just for those experiences. It
That
was
is
it was
awesome.
amazing. But yeah, bands and music make me happy, and I love listening to music. When we get up in the morning, I always turn on the radio or the stereo or whatever and listen.
Yeah, me too.
So if you, with your music, if you were stranded on a desert island, your device
Mhm.
that you had, like your electronics that we have nowadays, if it
Okay.
could only play one song over and over, but it would never stop, what song would that be?
Hunger Strike, Temple of the Dogs. Temple, yeah.
Okay.
Temple of the Dog, yeah. Um, well, I can remember where I was when I first heard that song, actually.
And where would that be?
It was when I moved to Edmonton.
Oh, yeah.
And they played it on the radio, and my girlfriend that I grew up with sang harmony with it. And I was like, where did you learn to sing like that? And where did this song come from? And yes, by far, the Temple of the Dog album is my favorite album of all music of all time. It is the one I only had one album on my phone for the longest time, and that was it.
Nice.
Mhm.
So you
Yeah.
would never get sick of it, hey?
If it played all the time, all day, every day while I was stranded on a desert island, um,
You'd walk around
I
with your ears
might,
plugged sometimes?
I might get a little bit sick of it over time, but
Yeah.
it is a tried and true. Yeah, it will always be part
Nice.
of the repertoire of songs I love.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so one final question.
Yes.
Erin Ko has gone through her life. She's accomplished everything she's ever wanted to, achieved all her goals. She's become the most amazing person and smartest and most intelligent that she could ever be. And when
Okay.
she passes on, she has to take all of that with her. And
Yes.
nobody here would know who Erin Ko was.
Yes.
But you're allowed to leave behind 3 lessons for life
Yes.
for the generations. What would that be?
The lessons that I already know, or the things that I wish I knew.
The lessons
Um,
that you would leave behind for the future generations.
it is our compassion for one another, our sameness, and understanding that sameness and that oneness that resolves our suffering.
Nice.
And that suffering builds our character, but it's not where we're meant to live. We are meant to live fully alive lives. So those would
Okay.
be the first two. And the last one would be, you know, if I could instill the wisdom in everybody's souls to love fully and, absolve themselves of as much fear as they possibly could, or be able to step back from fear and go, oh, hi, look, there it is. There is fear. There is the
Recognize it.
instinct of the animal, and to recognize it, and to recognize that you don't have to engage with it all the time. That would be the third lesson. It's one I'm still learning myself.
Nice.
It's
Awesome.
powerful. Hmm.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I love a lot of the stuff you've shared. I hope that people listening and watching really resonate with some of this, and people
Mhm.
that have gone through their own experiences can relate. And
Yeah.
I hope lots of things we talk about people can see and say, "Hey, yeah, good idea. We should do that or try that or whatever."
Hmm.
Thank you very much, Aaron, for joining me. It's awesome. I enjoy talking with you all the time, even when we, meet in my home or
Yeah.
out or wherever. I enjoy it
Thanks
all
for
the
having
time.
me, Troy.
Yeah,
Yeah, me
it's
as well.
it's awesome. Um, Again, thanks for taking your time away from your schedule to be with us. I'm Troy Hudkins. This is Lessons for Life, and tune in later for another podcast and a new guest. And life is a journey, and make every moment count. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Troy.